Hello and welcome to Activating Magic. I'm your host, Darla Ledoux, and I'm excited to bring with you my friend and mentor, Katherine Bird. Hi, Katherine.
Hi, so good to see you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying yes to being here. So, a little bit about Katherine. First of all, I'm so excited because I'm sure we're going to talk about her book, which used to be a program and is a program, but it used to be a program that I took when I was first introduced to Katherine. So I'm really excited for you to learn a bit about that. Katherine is a shamanic and energetic medicine practitioner, mentor, trainer of healing, therapeutic, spiritual practitioners, and coaches. She supports people to heal themselves and bring their magic to the world through spiritual development and energetic mastery. She has extensive backgrounds in Eastern and Western alchemy, somatic and shamanic modalities. She teaches healing skill development, channeling, and mediumship, Qigong, which I love. I learned through you, internal energy work, meditation, and more. Using energy work, hands-on healing, practice cultivation, and mentorship, she shepherds people through awakening journey to full alignment. She's a ritualist, ceremonialist, earth lover, and artist in deep prayer and service to the community and the world. Author of The Healer's Process, Inner Work and Skill Development to Fulfill Your Sacred Purpose. Katherine, okay, so many modalities, so many skills. I know you are prolific at creating content and really tapping into what serves people and what they most need to be their fullest expression. And how did you step onto this path?
I would say the path stepped on me. Maybe. I did not plan any of this. I had a very radical, quite spontaneous spiritual energetic awakening in my 20s. And I had really received that wasn't really the path I was on was not the path anymore, and that I needed to take some space to learn who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I committed to that and just like, okay, let me sit with myself and find out, like, you ask this question, who am I? And in the inquiry of that, I discovered things that were very unexpected. And I started having channeling and mediumship experiences and a lot of energetic experiences. And I, within that, had to then really study and train and find some mastery and understanding of what was occurring for me. And so then it became the whole path of, okay, I hear that I'm a healer. I'm not sure what that means. So let me start putting these puzzle pieces together and keep taking one step forward. And eventually I wound up here.
So you said you realized the path I was on was not the path.
Yeah.
What was the path you were on?
I had gone to New York when I was 18, and I studied in conservatory for acting. And so I was doing a lot of theater. I did some film and TV work, but I was making art. I was really on that path, which later on I realized that acting is a very shamanic practice. And in the way that I was engaging with it, it was very much working with energies and working in these other realms and letting things inhabit me, which wasn't always the healthiest because I didn't have comprehension and understanding of what I was really doing.
Yeah. Okay. So then I know I'm a healer, but what do I do with that? I feel like people find you often when they're in that place. Does that feel true?
Yeah, for sure. Because even sometimes we get on this path and maybe we are drawn to coaching or to being a therapist or a yoga teacher or a massage therapist. And we do that for a while and then realize, oh my gosh, I'm actually called to something bigger than this, or something that feels a bit intimidating. There's more spiritual stuff coming in, there's more energetic stuff coming
Mm.
in. I'm getting into really deep trauma with people. And then there's this need to both develop the skills and the tools, but also do the inner work that is required to be able to step forward in that way, because it's triggering and uncomfortable for everybody.
Yes. Yes. Well, so I know I was referred to you by a coach I was working with when I think I was having, I know for sure my sensation magic was coming online. So, I have the 6 types of magics, and one of them is sensation, which is really feeling in your body what's going on with someone else. Like I started to realize I'd host retreats and I would get mysterious symptoms, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that well, eventually I figured out they weren't mine, but then I didn't know how to manage that. And that's when I connected with the healer's process, which, when you talked about acting and you said letting letting other characters or ideas or energies inhabit your body, I relate to that in a certain way. And how how did you come to realize that that was the work you would do, or focus in that area, helping other healers and practitioners?
Well, what happened was that I was going along and doing my work, and I had been doing lots of different things. I did structural body work and energy work and different kinds of healing modalities and shamanic work and coaching and teaching. And I always loved teaching. Teaching was really
Yeah.
always my whole life. I was always
Mm.
drawn to that. And so I loved learning things and then teaching them to other people. That was very natural for
Mhm.
me. And so I had been teaching and doing workshops and those things for a long time. But when I moved to San Diego, I had a men's coaching business at that time. I was doing my private work, but I started to see more practitioners because there's a lot of practitioners there. So I started like
So it was location.
it was a little bit of location because a lot of my clients were some kind of practitioner, coach, therapist, body worker, some kind of shamanic practitioner or something. And I kept seeing the same stuff over and over, where they
Mm.
had the same issues of taking on too much from other people, burning out, not understanding their gifts, feeling afraid of their own gifts, uh, kind of feeling this dread and terror over really stepping into what they knew was deeply calling them forward. And so as I started to have more of these, I loved working with practitioners. And so I had more practitioners as clients, and I really wanted to serve them. And also, as I had more clients, as I had more of my own work, doing more ceremonial work, being a lot more busy, I also had to step up my own self-care and my own
Mm.
practices and learn more. And so it was very natural to be supporting people on this path. My path was hard and challenging and confusing. So I think that a lot of times we step into that role that we wish we had when we were younger.
Yeah, because you started channeling without knowing what it was.
Oh yeah, no, I had no idea what was going on. I thought I had no idea what was happening.
I'm glad I didn't have that path.
Yeah, and it's not the most common thing to happen, but it does happen for people, especially as we
Mm.
engage in more uh, consciousness altering modalities and things that we're doing as far as breath work or going to ceremonies, doing plant medicines, doing tantric work.
Mm.
All of these things can really alter our consciousness in a way that we start having experiences that we didn't expect.
Mm. Yeah. So, I know one of the things you're really passionate about when your clients work with you is that they find what's authentic to them in their healing work. And they're, really be in their core. Why is that? Like, how did you end up focusing on that, or why has that become so important for you?
I think that as people who are drawn to service, a lot of times we're drawn to service from a space of it makes us actually feel good. And
Mm.
we feel wanted, we feel needed, we are good at it, we are practiced often from a lifetime of
Mhm.
challenge and growing up in a challenging home where we learned how to manage things inside the home. And we are drawn into service, but then we spend a lot of our time outside of ourselves, where we actually are almost inside the other people, inside their experience, helping and supporting. And that can be really helpful, but it's also can be very draining for us. And we can not recognize what we really need. We can not recognize what we really want in our lives. We can kind of go on autopilot that way. And what I've found in this idea of, like, you talk about these magics
Yeah.
and the authentic medicine that we have, that each one of us holds, it really comes from a beingness that we
Mhm.
are. And I think that because healing work and these different modalities can be abstract in a lot of ways, and it's not like a physical product that you can say, I made this thing and it does this thing. It
Yes.
it can be questioned by other people. They don't believe in it. So we have trouble believing in ourselves. So we want to get all these modalities under our belt, but we can lose sight of the beingness inside the doing of
Mhm.
these things. Like, oh, well, I know this protocol that I'm going to take everybody through now that I've done this coaching program, or I've learned this modality, and now this is what I do in the same way my teacher does. But there's
Yes.
also this thing that every single person has that's unique and special to them, the beingness that they are, that has a
Mhm.
really significant impact on the people that you come across.
Mm.
But it has to come from inside. It has to come from, like you said, this core, the center, the self-centeredness that
Mhm.
we need to learn how to embody
Yeah.
and
So
heal
juicy.
ourselves, right? Because we have to also heal that part that has been shamed for being self-centered, for being within ourselves and
Yes.
not caretaking or people pleasing or uh giving, over giving.
Mhm. So good. There's so much in what you shared, and I'm thinking about one, the magic is the beingness is the magic. I don't want to,
Mhm.
it births the magic, being
Mhm.
present in the moment and centered in ourselves. And when you talked about the service makes us feel good, and it's like the magic feels good, right? But like, um, are people being in their magic at their own expense, right? For others at their own expense is what I'm hearing in that. Is like, yeah, it feels good, and we can just kind of step out of our own needs and wants and be in the present moment. But ultimately, what's the impact of that if someone's not starting here?
Well, I think first and foremost is that we can miss things, like just
Mhm.
miss things about ourselves, like learning
Yeah.
about our own self. which is a huge part of this journey to discover, oh, actually, even though I was taught this way, this actually works better for me, or
Yeah.
this is what I want. Maybe I go to a business coach and I learn how to do my business. And then you realize, oh, actually, that isn't the way that feels the best
Yeah.
for me in my business. And if we're not centered in self, we can run around taking a lot of other people's advice as to how we should live our lives or run our business or do our practice and not feel the fulfillment, and then need to run around more because that fulfillment isn't there. The fulfillment has to come from within us.
Yes. I'm just thinking, I was teaching a class this morning, and one of the clients, we just were doing celebrations, and she said, I figured out something about how I work.
Mm.
And that, I've been putting off this thing and putting up like a writing thing, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. And then all of a sudden I was clear, and it happened really fast. And I realized that I spent so much time beating myself up because I wasn't doing it. But really, I just work in cycles, and it was really fun, and
Mhm.
it was really easy. And she was glowing. And it's
Yeah.
that simple, right? To claim something about what works for her.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we've been so conditioned that we should be like everyone else, that we should learn the same way, we should have the same
Mhm.
energy during the day, we should be able to work the same number of hours, that we should be able to
Mhm.
have so many clients and that feel good. And it really is so individual what works for us as practitioners.
Mhm.
And but it has that risky sense to it
Mhm.
where we have to sometimes step back and slow down and sometimes stop doing things for a minute and let ourselves discover what's really working and what isn't,
Mhm.
and sometimes make really hard choices. Maybe
Yeah.
building something and then being like, I spent so much time and energy and money building this thing, and now it it just isn't the right thing.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've definitely been there. And sometimes we have to let things go and for something new
Yeah.
to show up.
Mhm.
And that's hard when you've invested a lot in something. And I see this a lot in my clients too, where maybe they've built a successful practice and then now they're
Mhm.
realizing that they're wanting to work at another level, at it maybe a deeper level or more spiritual, in a more spiritual way, or focus on a different aspect of
Yeah.
their work. And there can be so much fear come up, especially if you've had some success, like, okay, well, can I shift something?
Mhm.
Am I safe to do that?
Yeah. What's your advice for someone in that spot?
Uh, I think that as hard as change is, it's almost always worth it.
Mm.
In the end, like when you look back at your
Yeah.
life, you're rarely like, oh, I wish I hadn't taken that chance. Even if
Yeah.
it didn't work out, you usually think, you know what? I learned a lot from that. I would not do that again, but I did learn something important by doing that. But a lot of times people do regret not taking a chance, not
Right.
changing something, not taking a risk on themselves, not following their heart.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, it does sometimes take really going within yourself and giving yourself some time and space to not know and to
Mhm.
rest within the not knowing, to be in the unknown and to be uncomfortable and just recognize, wow, this is super uncomfortable. I actually don't really prefer this, but I'm going to sit here for a little while.
Yes. Yes. I think you've been there recently. I've been there recently. I was just interviewing someone who's been there recently of like, I guess I shouldn't, as I think you've been there. I have been there in the sitting and waiting and what's true and do I know what's true? And one of the thoughts that floated through, I'm curious how you would respond to this, is I have noticed that where I don't act when I know there's something I need to release, it's like I'm analyzing how I'm going to explain it to someone.
Hmm.
And that obviously never is helpful because I don't have to explain it to someone. And it doesn't matter anyway if they get it. But that's what comes up for me. I'm curious if you see that with your clients. Like even if I know I'm going to do the thing, like I know I have to because it's in my integrity to do it. There's still that like, okay, but how is it going to be perceived and how will I explain that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the perception of others is one of the greatest blocks to our path, as far as I've seen from
Mhm.
a lot of people. A lot of people will come, and
Yeah.
there's this fear of how we're going to be perceived. This
Mhm.
fear of, well, people are going to think that I'm crazy or that I've lost my bearings because now I'm talking about this when I was talking about that.
Yeah.
And I've not on brand, I guess, anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think that that is such an interesting piece is that, as a practitioner, generally, like we are the brand. And
Hmm.
then we build this brand, and then now we've sort of created a construct and this identity that we've invested in around ourselves, but we
Yes.
are actively participating in transformational work, which means we must transform.
Yes. Yes. It's interesting, Kat, you know this story. I was married to a woman. You coached me through a process before I ended up divorced. So you know about that. And I then started dating a man. And obviously my brain is thinking like, how am I going to explain this? This doesn't
It's
make
not
sense.
on, this is not on brand.
How am I going to how am I going to get anybody to understand? Yeah, this is not on brand. And I texted a good friend of mine that I used to work with in corporate, and I said, Shantae, I got to come out to you. I'm dating a man. And I went through the explanation, and her one sentence reply, that's so on brand for you. So why do we have to like assume that we decide what our brand is anyway? Right?
Right.
Like all the struggle, people just are deciding our brand.
That's true. People are deciding our brand
Mm.
all the time. People are already projecting things on us and deciding things about us. And um, there is often so much energy wrapped up in trying to figure out how other people are going to take us, or if they're going to like us, or if it's going to work, or what if I fail? And instead of just doing the thing that we know that we want to do, or that we feel really
Yeah.
called to do, even because this kind of work, you do it even though it doesn't make sense.
Mm.
A lot of times it doesn't make sense. And you can try to rationalize it and explain it, but sometimes it's just, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Mm. How do you, let's talk about someone who's kind of learning their authenticity, learning their desires. Um, I definitely fall in the category of people who have been in service over in a way that like made me not know what I wanted. Um, how would you guide someone, or what would, you talked about the judgment of being selfish and the fear of looking selfish. And, so many service providers are afraid of that. And if I
Yeah.
even think about the last, two things I know I analyzed, how will I explain this to someone and what will people think? It's like, are they going to think I'm selfish?
Mm.
So how um how do you guide someone with that?
Well, I think there's a few things that are really helpful. Number one is that you really need to uh, disengage from the stuff, right? Disengage, like get yourself offline, go be in nature, spend some time alone, give yourself some time, like as much time as you can be alone, just to be
Yeah.
with yourself and come back to, okay, this feels good in my body. Breathing, walking, moving, dancing, singing, these things feel good in my body, and start to get that feedback loop back of, okay, I feel good within myself. And from that place, what do I really
Yeah.
want? And a lot of times we don't have enough time for ourselves and
Yeah.
spaciousness for ourselves, alone time, quiet, not needing to be doing or producing anything. When I'm going through a transitionary piece, I go back to, okay, what is joyful for me right now? And a lot of times I go and make art, which I am not trying to sell to anyone. I'm not trying to be seen. I'm not trying to get anybody else's opinion about it, because from that place, I come back to, this looks good, feels good, is what I want to create. So I start creation from a place that is honoring me, doesn't have
Mhm.
anything to do with anyone else. And then from there, I find oftentimes it sparks creativity in my business. And then also to come back to energy work and energy practices. And so I do teach a lot of, coming back to the presence within self and visualizing and being aware of the central channel, of working with the energy in the belly, the core energy centers, so that you're paying attention to the breath and the body and your own energy, and really coming back to you.
Mm.
And it's so simple in a lot of ways, and we often want to like workshop something into existence
Mm.
instead of resting it into existence.
Ooh, that's good. Resting it into existence and breathing.
Yeah. And like not manhandling it and pushing it and forcing it, but letting it you breathe itself, right? You coming back to your breath and doing breath work and being with yourself and feeling your body.
Mm.
When I go back to my practices and I'm really in the practice, a lot of times from there, that's where I get, oh, go do this program, go write this. Oh, this is
Yeah.
here's, creative life coming in. If I go and sit in front of my computer and go, oh my gosh, I've got to make some change,
Mhm.
or I've got to
Mhm.
create something, um, it's not necessarily the most sparked up, fun creation.
Yeah, I know I've had to really learn, if I'm in that place, just stop, because I've literally seen the results are not as good if I'm forcing myself to produce something,
Yeah. I like
nobody's going to read
sometimes
it.
I'll just like I will take days off, and when I should be working. Like a lot of
Yes.
times I'll just be like, okay, Friday, no, I don't, I'm done. There's no more. And go and do something that's fun for me, or do nothing, or just clean my house and like get to a place where I'm like, okay, everything feels settled here.
Mhm.
And then, I might wake up at the middle of the night with a voice memo of the thing that I want to put
Yeah,
out, that if I sat in front of my computer to try to write that,
right.
it might not come through in the same way.
Absolutely. You're making me want to clean. So thanks. That never happens.
I've been doing morning like cleaning every
Uh-huh.
day. I've been, like okay, every morning I'm, like whatever dishes
Yeah.
and just kind of resetting the space. And I found that that's been really helpful for
Mm,
me to like, okay, now let's go back to the practice and
yeah.
um, like come from that place.
Mhm. What are is it the healer's practice has been out, or the healer's process book has been out for 6 months?
Been about 6 months. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What have you been hearing are the favorite practices and things that people are pulling from the book?
Let's see. What have people been saying recently? I think like right now we're doing book club and people have really been really looking at this concept of, what does it mean for me just to be myself? What does it mean for me to be in this authentic medicine? What does it mean
Mhm.
to be sovereign and to have the freedom to be myself? I think that it sounds so simplistic, this idea that we have that, oh, I could just be myself. But when we do it, it often brings up so much stuff for us.
Mhm.
All the things that we learned from our childhood and all of these other um, places that we've we've been taught that what we are, just as we are, not doing anything, that we have value.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, when you're talking about this, I keep having this thought, like you were talking about the beingness that you are as a practitioner, and I'm thinking about our unique medicine. And I think so often we can't see our own. And as soon as
Mhm.
we're trying to be it, then we're not authentic anymore. Like I keep thinking, like, just freaking relax. It's like relax and let people just see your medicine instead of trying to figure out how to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we want to figure it out. We want to put a label on it. We want to name it. Makes it much easier to
Mhm.
sell.
Yes.
We want to figure out like what do I call this thing and how do I package it? And sometimes it's this ineffable thing that is beyond the words. We don't have
Mhm.
words necessarily for it. And I mean, I know early on, I was so confused as to what was happening to me. I, went and saw some people and some practitioners and was like, what is this? Like, what is actually happening here? Right. And it's good when other people label you in a way. Like I never would have used this word shamanic and all of this. But then when people started to see what I was doing, they were like, oh, well, that's what that is. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I didn't know what that meant,
Yeah.
but I was like, oh, okay, like that gives a
Mhm.
name to what people might be able to relate to this.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like but it in that same
Mhm.
vein, if I'm running around trying to be shamanic, whatever that means, I might just be putting on a show instead of just being, oh, this is just what naturally occurs and happens,
Yeah.
and it doesn't need to look like what anybody else says that is. Um,
Yes.
because it's my medicine. And for each one of us to really be with my medicine that I am already is sacred.
Mhm.
It is valuable. It is worthy of existing because I am.
Mhm.
And that, I think that if we can just get to that place where we
Yeah.
can, rest really in that self-acceptance,
Mhm.
then, if we change, great. If it develops, if we get interested in something else, if we want to call it something else, um, that all of that worry about that process and what people are going to think, can kind of settle down, because no matter what, there is an intrinsic value to me as a human being, period.
Yeah.
And if I can just understand myself, then I can understand what I am here doing. And if I can just be human, like at a very basic level, then I'm actually something that is helping people, because in a lot of ways we've lost humanity within a lot of us, have lost connection to, okay, I exist,
Mm.
therefore I am love.
Mm.
And
Wow.
it's too simple.
Right. Well, I
No.
love it. I mean, when you said being human is helping people, because we've lost that. And I'm thinking of a guest I interviewed who was talking about being so in the hallway, as I talk about, like not knowing what's next, but knowing it's not that, and like what's coming. And she's been posting about it, and like that it's so vulnerable to just say, I don't know, and this is what's happening. um, and how people are responding to that, right? Like just the permission to be human. And I met this guy who's talking about how our industry, whatever our industry is, right? If online coaching, marketing, healing, whatever, meeting clients online, has gotten to like this saturation point of claims escalation. Like just, oh, and then it can do this, and then it can do this. And if you take my program, well, it'll do your laundry for you or whatever. Like just, and how we're at such a place of needing a reset. And so when you said just being human is helping people, that's what I hear. It's like we maybe have in some spaces we've claimed escalated ourselves out of humanity.
Right. Yeah, because you have to solve every problem that this person has. And
Mhm.
that's not necessarily even our job,
Yeah.
because the people are coming really to get the guidance so that they can discover who they are and what they want and what
Yes.
feels good for them, and to create more of that in the world. And I think that we can get really distracted by solving problems
Yeah.
sometimes. Sometimes we're solving the wrong problems.
Often, I think.
Like how many times are we like, oh, well, if I could just fix this thing in my business, I would be okay. But the truth is, if I could just be okay with the uncertainty that my business is, I would actually be
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
You know? Um, yeah.
Mm. So I know you're really passionate about people healing themselves to be able to be in this place of whole. Um, what what would you want to say about that? Like, I know you have an offer coming up about helping people to heal themselves, and maybe this builds on this conversation we've been having. Like, self-healing may not seem sexy.
No, generally it's not. But like we are our greatest healer, no matter what. End of story. And that we've lost sight, we've lost belief in our
Mm.
ability to heal ourselves. We don't think that it's possible. Yet,
Mm.
I've seen people heal themselves of all kinds of things,
Yeah.
things that they're not supposed to have been healed from. So, the idea that we can't heal ourselves is, I think, this, code, this belief and projection that's been put upon us to disempower us from growth and transformation and change, and to keep us, following along the orders of the societal norms.
Right.
But we heal ourselves. And as much as you want to go, okay, well, let me go to this practitioner and have them fix this thing for me, you most of the time are going to have to do something for yourself. You're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to realize some things. You're going to have to go through something, some kind of transformation. People can't transform for you. Sometimes we try to transform for other people, but
I'm
that's
just
not it.
laughing, but I mean, it's true, right? Like, I sell containers for transformation, set up the boundary and the conversation. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, like it's easy to want someone else to transform for us.
Yeah. And some people choose it, and some people don't. And some people are, we flop around in resistance for a while, and we tell ourselves all kinds of stories, and we all do it. We all go, oh, I could never, or that's not me, or all of
Right.
these pieces, right, that we have. Um,
Mm.
but it is up to us to heal ourselves in so many ways. And of course, we want to go see incredible practitioners. I go see practitioners
Yeah.
because they are extremely helpful for helping us to recognize things, to confront ourselves, to be with our shadow and our darkness and our pain and our grief, to help us energetically to get things moving in the right direction, to all of the things that a practitioner
Yes.
can bring into our lives, to see us,
Mhm.
to really see us and who we are, and give us permission to see ourselves. Um, but we have to be willing to do some of the work ourselves, to make changes, to see where we're sabotaging ourselves and talking down to ourselves, shaming ourselves, um, continuing relationships that drag us down. All of these things that you have to make those choices yourself. Like, this is all free will. We came to a free will place. And I think that in this, like, this strange free will place that we live, one of the most powerful things we can do is choose to heal.
Yeah. You know, I love the way you described using practitioners. And I'm thinking, activating magic podcast, and your magic is really your ability to know and see, what's in people's blind spots as a service provider. And I hope people will take from what you said that service provider, can sprinkle your magic, can be, I've been using the word lubricant, which my clients are all giggling about, but like be the lubricant, right? Like, hey, we're just going to get you moving in the right direction. Like, here we
Right.
go. Um, Not the keeper of the answer or the path, because that's how people get heavy. That's how your business feels hard. That's how you wake up
Mm,
thinking about clients or solving their
right.
problems in your sleep or whatever
You
it may
just started a cult unintentionally. Right?
be.
It's like, because if you look at a cult like that, a lot of times people are entering into that space
Mhm.
because they want to give up their power. They want to
Yes.
have a someone tell them what the answer is and what to do and how to live their lives. And if they'll only follow these rules, then they'll be okay and be safe and be happy. Um, it is it is a much more internally confronting and challenging to enter into a container where I'm not going to tell you what you have to do.
Yes.
I'm not going to force you to do anything. I'm not going to shame
Yes.
you and abuse you into compliance into my system. I'm
Yes.
going to
Mm.
offer opportunity, and you can take the
Mhm.
opportunity or not to incorporate things that are going to, help. And
Yeah.
sometimes those things, like, people are like, oh my gosh, if I had to heal these things, it would take so much. But I've worked with people where their trauma, their stories of what happened to them, long-term complex PTSD type trauma, is stuff that you are like, wow, that is a
Mhm.
lot, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot what people can endure. And and maybe they're not like technically, kind of practitioners are on this path, but they start incorporating small pieces and doing small things that are changing their nervous system and working somatically and
Mhm.
changing their thought patterns and changing things and their ways of
Yeah.
communicating and being in relationship, and significant changes happen in every area of their life.
Yeah.
So sometimes we get overwhelmed with the idea of, oh my gosh, if I have to heal myself, how hard is that going to be
Right.
because I've have so many problems, or
How many hours a day or
right.
yeah.
But it's not actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about those tiny little things that you're changing that make the biggest
Mhm.
difference. It's not about meditating for 3 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking about, when you said seeing a practitioner and then there's still work to do, right? Like it can be a one-time thing that makes no difference, or you can be accountable to integrate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, with like business stuff or even patterns I can name and describe, right? It's easier to know, oh, this is what to do different, or this is how to integrate it. And with the physical, it's really I think it's really a deep, deep trust. Like one of the things that I learned from you is about the way energy flows through our system, and that it can be small movement in a particular way that's kind of like the medicine for a physical ailment or even a behavior pattern
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
just, practiced in, 3 minutes a day moves the energy.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have a client right now who's a therapist and has been doing therapy, psychotherapy for 20 years and been in therapy for 20 years, 25 years, and is like now saying, I can't believe that I didn't have this education. I didn't know these things. Like, I'm
Mm.
changing things quite rapidly internally by just adding in some of these practices that I'm doing.
Mm.
And so sometimes a practice that I give will be, do this for 1 minute a day, do this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I can do a very full body practice in 20 minutes.
Mm.
And, um, but there's a real difference between people who are willing to do that and people who aren't. And one thing that holds us back is that we go, oh yeah, it needs to be this, I need to get special clothes and I need to go to the place and I need to, like,
Yeah.
do an hour and a half worth of this. And then if I don't do that, then it's not worth it. But um,
Mhm.
it really, there's small things that we can be doing that can radically change
Mm.
and transform us.
Love it. You've got some practices for people. You've got a little free gift.
Always.
Always.
There's always
Yes.
practices. So my free gift is actually the introduction to my book, which there's like some little chapters, pre chapter one, and a practice on building the field. So building your protective field and your bubble and
Mm.
strengthening your internal energy. And it's not a long practice, but it's a really good one.
Mm. So if people are resonating with this idea, it's like, there it is. One simple practice.
One simple practice gets you started.
Love it. Love it. So we'll put that link in the show notes. And Katherine, I like to imagine, activating magic. This is reaching the ears of people around the globe who maybe aren't in supportive communities of other magicians yet, but they know that there's something more that wants to be created and birthed through them, through their magic. What message would you have from someone like that, who's maybe the only one in their family who's, let's say, awakening, their channeling gift and they don't know what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are like that. I know I'm like that. And it can feel very lonely. You can feel very out of place, but there are a lot of us. And there are a lot of us that can understand. And I know a lot of people will come to me and say, I've heard a lot of times, I know I can tell you this because you won't think I'm crazy. And and so you need to find somebody that you can talk to who is not going to be dismissive, discouraging, hurtful, or create some kind of shame or shut you down. Somebody that you can talk to who's like, yeah, that's, I can understand that. And the weirder you are, maybe, the more you have to look for that person. But we do exist, and community, I think, is really important. It's really important for our healing, for us to come together. What I've seen, I'm sure you've ran so many group containers, but a lot of times we have this feeling like what I'm experiencing is very unique. And then we get into a group container and we get to start having conversations with each other about what were our experiences. And we're like, oh,
It's so healing.
yeah. So it's really helpful to have those experiences to just go,
Yeah.
wow, they're having those same thoughts. They're having those same
Mm.
experiences. That is not so weird, especially when you look at weird stuff where it's like energy and spirits and
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. You want to be able to unweirdify it a little bit inside of yourself.
Unweirdify it. I love it. So, Kat, if they grab this giveaway, then they'll be able to learn about when your self-healing program launches.
Yeah,
And
you'll be on my list. And yeah, my Heal Thyself program is coming up soon in the fall. And I'm in about a month from this record date. I don't know when this will go out. And then the Healers Process year-long program starts 2025 in March. And
beautiful.
yeah, well, it'll be 9 months of a lot of like inner work and energy practices and development work. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for who you are in the
Thanks,
world,
Darla. Thank
who you've
you.
been for me. So appreciate you.
Oh, I so appreciate you too. And I love the work that you do. I love that it is so much about discovering who you are and understanding that you're connected and that you're able to bring through something for the world, and that each one of us gets to do that. And only through doing that, I think, do we like, it's like we're creating this web of transformation. And each one of us being different and having a different code and a different frequency helps that web to have strength and fortitude so that we can all help all of the people who want to see the world be a more beautiful, just place.
Yes. Cheers to that.
That's the vision.
Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode.